On today's lesson on the School of Redstone, we are going to be covering these 6 blocks here. We have the sticky piston, the regular piston, the slime block, the honey block, the immovable blocks, and the blocks that will not stick to anything but are still movable. One thing that I would like to mention, from here on out the videos will probably be getting shorter, which means that they're going to be easier to watch and digest. And that is solely because I am taking some items that don't really have enough to offer for a complete video, and kind of grouping them together like you see here. However, unless we are getting into the pretty technical bits of redstone, like the redstone comparator, there's really not a whole lot to explain about it. Just more or less the interactions with different components, how it works, what it does, and how you should use it. By the way, Christmas is coming up, and the one thing that I would love to have for Christmas is over 1,000 subscribers. If you could help me out with that, I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much for your support. Now enough jibber jabber, let's get into the lesson. So let's start off with the simple stuff. Let's see if each one of these components are going to be waterloggable. Then we're going to go and see if light will transmit through them, and we can also see if they're movable. So first and foremost, we can put a sticky piston down here, and we could try to waterlog it. And as you can see that this is actually waterloggable, so we can place glass right there and you can still see water inside of the side of that. If I remove this again, you can see that the water is going to flow out of there. And then if I break this, you'll see that there's actually water there as well. However, if there is pre-existing water there and I place it down, it's going to be waterloggable. However, if I place it over here where the flowing water hits it, it's not going to break off as an item, but it's also not going to get waterlogged. Next is the regular piston, and because this is the exact same as the sticky piston minus the slime, it's going to function the exact same way. So you can waterlog it, you can break it, you can place it in flowing water, it's not going to be broken or turned into item form, and it's literally going to function the exact same way. However, if we take a slime block here and we place down the slime block, you can see the slime block, although it is a transparent block, it's not going to be able to be waterlogged, which makes sense, and it is going to remove that water. If you remove that slime block and put the water back, if you place this in front of the flowing water, it's not going to break off as an item. This is going to be literally the exact same for the honey block. So as you can see, if we place the honey block there, it's going to remove the water. The obsidian, although it is not movable, it is a solid block, which means it's not going to be able to be waterlogged, as you can see here. And it's definitely not going to be able to be broken by any flowing water. And the same thing goes for the terracotta. So if we place that there, it's not going to be broken. If we place it down here, it's going to remove the water, just as you would expect it to. Next, we're going to get started checking if each of these items will actually let light through. This is relevant especially if you are building a farm and you don't want light to shine through and ruin the spawning mechanics. So we can start off with the pistons, and as we have stated in previous episodes, the pistons will actually let light through, even though you would think that they would not because they look like they're a solid block. However, the light comes pouring through here and it literally does not change the light at all, and that's no different with the sticky piston or the regular piston. Next, we have the slime block and the honey block. Both of these are going to let light through. And the same thing goes for the honey block as well. However, if I place a piece of obsidian here, you're going to see it's going to get substantially darker. And last but not least, we have the glazed terracotta, which is a solid block, and that's going to block out all of the light, just like the obsidian. So let's see if these things will conduct a redstone signal, shall we? We're going to start off with the sticky piston first, and power that. And although we are able to power that sticky piston, it is not going to transmit the redstone signal through the sticky piston and soft power this lamp. If you watch previous lessons, then you will remember any of the components, excluding a very few components, will not allow any component next to it to be soft powered. And as you can imagine, the exact same thing applies for the regular piston. So we can move on to the slime block here, and the slime block, although it does look like it's transparent, it will actually pass redstone signal through it and allow it to power whatever is on the other side. And the same characteristic also applies for the honey block as well. And both of these are solid blocks, so they are both going to be able to pass the redstone signal through them. Before we get started talking about all of the things that the pistons can do, let's talk about some of the things that they can't first. In front of me here inside of the first row is going to be all of the immovable blocks. Well, I say all of them, but I'm sure I probably missed one or two. Starting off, we have the obsidian, beacons, bedrock, all command block types, the crying obsidian, enchantment table, end portal frame, grindstone, ender chest, lodestone, extended piston, nether portal, end portal, reinforced deep slate, respawn anchor, sculk catalyst, sculk sensor, sculk shrieker, jukebox, structure block, structure void, spawner cage, jigsaw block, and at the very end here we have the barrier. In the back here we have most all of the blocks that are not going to be able to stick to the slime blocks or the honey blocks. So starting off, we have the obsidian, we have the leaves, campfires, shulker boxes, ender chest, carved pumpkins, regular pumpkins, jukeboxes, bedrock, moss, melons, end portal frames, enchantment tables, beacons, banners, any kind of glazed terracotta, any type of mob heads, extended pistons, sea pickles, a lot of different plants, doors. The honey blocks will not stick to the slime blocks, and the slime blocks will not stick to the honey blocks, cobwebs, and then we also have this piston over here, which is going to push this across this cactus, showing that it's not going to stick to the top of the cactus, and it's also not going to stick to the bed. However, one note, if you take any block and put next to that cactus, it's going to destroy that cactus, so only the top of it is not going to stick. So the pistons pretty much have the exact same function, except for the one on the left, which is the sticky piston, is going to be able to have stuff stuck to it, whereas the regular piston is not. So for example, if we grab some of these lanterns, we can place a block here and a block here, and then whenever we power this one, it's going to push it out. But if we unpower, it's going to pull that back, but it's not going to stick to the head of the piston, so it's going to stay floating. However, on the sticky piston, if we push that, it's going to push it out, and then if we turn off the power, it's going to pull that back down, because the block is stuck to the head of the piston. However, with that being said, that does not mean that every block can stick to the head of the piston. So if we take one of these over here, which is the melon, and place it on top of the sticky piston here, just sticking to the slime is not enough. This melon is actually going to break whenever we try to push it, which is one of the reasons why the pistons are such a great choice for a bunch of farms. So let's try the moss block and see if that's any better. We'll place some moss down here, try and give it a push, and as you can see, it pops it off as an item. Well, let's try an ender chest. We'll take an ender chest and put on there, and try and push it. Well, as you can see, it's not going to be able to push it, because not only is it a block that's not able to have anything stuck to it, it is also a immovable block like this. So let's try something else. Let's try a shulker box. We take the shulker box, remove that ender chest. We can unpower that, place down the shulker box, and then we can power the piston, and that's going to pop off as an item too. However, if we go to something that's like glazed terracotta here, and go up here, and place that down, it's able to push it. However, because it's glazed terracotta, this is not able to have anything stick to it, so it's pushable, but it's not pullable, which is a really nice characteristic for this block, and really handy if you have a specific purpose for this. However, let's try to put a bed on top of there and see how this does. We can place this down, although I do need to drop down another block there. And let's see what happens with this. Nope, as you can see, it pops it off as an item. So all of these blocks that are not able to have anything stick to them does not really guarantee anything other than they're not able to be stuck to. So keep that in mind whenever you're categorizing these inside of your brain. Now with pistons, if there is one number that I need you to keep in mind whenever correlating with the pistons, it's going to be 12. And that is because you are only able to push 12 blocks with a piston. Once you go up to 13, then you're no longer able to push those blocks. So to show you what I mean, we can place down 11 blocks here. And we can try to push those 11. And as you can see, it pushed them up just fine. However, once we take the 12th block, we can put that in there. And then we'll try and push it. And because it can push 12 blocks, it's going to push that up just fine. However, once we move to the 13th block, we're going to try to push it. And as you can see, because it's at the push limit, it's not going to be able to push those blocks any higher. And that's going to apply for any direction that that piston's facing, up, down, or side to side. The exact same mechanics apply to the sticky piston as well. However, whenever these try to push a block, you can see that it will push a total of 12 blocks here. However, whenever you're pulling it, it's only going to pull down that one block because it's not stuck between these two. It's only stuck between the piston head and the solid block. Now, something that's kind of finicky in my opinion is if we take a slime block and we use this as kind of glue to stick these two solid blocks together. So we have the sticky piston glued to this, and then the slime block glued to this, and this solid block glued to the slime block. So theoretically it should work, right? No. As you can see, we can push this, and it's going to push those slime blocks and solid blocks, just like so. However, whenever we retract it, it's not going to pull this slime block back down here. And that is due to the way that the slime blocks work. There's not really much of anything that's going to be able to stick to a slime block. However, a slime block can stick to a ton of different things. And I know that that doesn't exactly make a whole lot of sense because, well, Minecraft. But, well, I can try and show you the best that I can. So we basically have a contraption here that's going to be able to test whether or not it's going to stick or not. So we can take a slime block, which we know a sticky piston is going to stick to. And then we can take the regular piston and extend it into that slime block, and then pull it back. And because the slime block does not stick to the piston, it's not going to allow it to be pulled back. However, if we go back here and we power the sticky piston, and it pushes that slime block into the piston, now because the slime block is sticking to the regular piston, it's able to stick to it, and it pulls it back. Makes a ton of sense, right? No, not really. But that's the way it works. So let's talk about the push limit a little bit more. In front of me here we have 5 pistons and we have 15 slime blocks here. And if you remember, the max push limit for any piston is going to be 12. Now the push limit does not change regardless how many pistons you have. So even if you have a ton of pistons down here, if any one of the individual pistons have to push more than 12 combined blocks, then it's not going to be able to push those. And that is because the game is going to search for all of the connected blocks that are able to stick together and ask itself if it exceeds the number of the push limit. So as you can see, we have the 15 slime blocks here, and if we try to give them a push, you can see that we are exceeding the push limit and the pistons are not going to be able to push them. However, if we turn this off and we remove 3 of them, then we only have 12, meaning that we can push a maximum of 12 blocks. We should be able to push this, right? Well, let's find out. No, it doesn't push. Well, why doesn't it push? You would think that it would. The reason why it does not push is because it has pistons attached to it at the bottom. So if this piston here is trying to push, it has the 12 blocks here, plus 13, 14, and 15. Same goes for here, then it's going to be 13, 14, and 15. So if we unpower this, and then we remove 3 more, now we have a total of 3, 6, 9. Because these outside blocks are not counted towards the push limit, we should be able to push it. And as you can see, this one took priority due to the randomization of redstone. We explained this back inside of the beginning of the series. It was able to push it up, and as you can see, we have these other 2 pistons that did not take priority. That became a block that got pushed. However, if we unpower this and repower it, we might have another piston that takes priority, as you can see here. But what if we wanted to make a slime block door and we wanted to make this work? Say we had a bunch of gold solid blocks and we wanted to make this entire thing into a door. Well, how would we do that with using the slime blocks? Because, well, if you look at the back, we have the 15 plus the extra 4 pistons, so it's going to be a total of 19, and then we just added another 15 blocks on the front of it, so there is no way that it's going to be able to push that. Well, that's the beauty of honey blocks. Now, honey blocks, they function almost exactly the same way as slime blocks. Well, you might be scratching your head wondering, well, how does that help us out in this situation? And it all comes to a key component of these honey blocks will stick to different blocks. However, these honey blocks will not stick to the slime blocks. Let me show you why that is extremely useful. If we go back to the back here, we can skip over some slime blocks and remove a row of the slime blocks here and replace them with honey blocks. And we can skip over another row of slime blocks, remove these, and place in another row of honey blocks. Now we have this staggered to where it is going from slime to honey, honey, and slime. And as mentioned before, none of these are going to stick together. So now whenever we power this piston, or all of them at the same time, they're going to move by individual columns. So instead of this having to lift the weight of all of these, it's only going to be responsible for lifting up 3 slime blocks, and then 3 of the solid blocks on the back. And then this section over here is going to be responsible for lifting up these 3 honey blocks, and the 3 solid blocks attached to those, and so forth, staggering however far you want to go. Pretty awesome, right? So let's go ahead and try and test this out. And as you can see, it fully pushes, and it also fully pulls. However, if we go all the way to the back here, and we power a piston individually, we can see that's actually separate. This one's separate. And these are all pretty much separate, although they function as a team. There are also a few different mechanics that are different between the honey block and the slime block, such as taking fall damage. If we teleport way up here and we fall down on the honey block, we are going to get stuck to it and really not move. And if I was in survival mode, I would have just died. However, falling down from a large distance on top of this honey block is going to take a large significant portion out of the amount of damage that you take from falling. You can also jump up and down on this, and as you can see, I really can't jump that high whenever I'm jumping. And another cool characteristic is if you put a carpet down, it does the exact same thing, and it allows you not to jump nearly as high. This is really useful for keeping villagers and animals inside of pens or any other area that you want them. So if there is a honey block, they'll never be able to jump up a full block. The slime block, on the other hand, you can jump just like you normally would. And if you find yourself falling from a long distance down, the slime block is actually going to bounce you really high. And it's even going to do the same thing if you have carpet on top of it, regardless how far of a distance you fall from. And it's also not going to give you any fall damage, which is really nice. It's like a giant trampoline. Whee! Well, that's going to wrap up this lesson, guys. I really hope that this helped you guys out, and I hope that you enjoyed this episode. I'll see you in the next one tomorrow. Bye.